We see this industry I was talking about, which is Botox and all these shortcuts that have come up in the market. So, what do you think? The industry is solving the problem or benefiting from it? I have yet to learn how to not eat ice cream every single day.
I could eat ice cream every single day, and living in Florida, it's my absolute favorite thing.
There's a moment in your story where a casting agent tells you your skin might end your broadcasting career. When you look back now, do you see that moment as rejection or redirection?
It was very motivating for me, but here I am, built a career on camera now. I'm gonna probably never do Botox. Gonna be 62 in 7 days. I have a few wrinkles, but I think I would look completely weird if I had no wear and tear.
Big dreams don't come quietly. They demand risk, they demand fire, they demand crazy transformation. Welcome to the corporate life. Hosted by Hina Siddiqui, CEO and founder of Corporate Influence Media and media strategist featured across 600 plus global outlets. Join us as we sit with million-dollar entrepreneurs, tech CEOs, and celebrities who share the scenes that shape them. Here, success isn't a headline. It's a human story. The turning points, reinventions, failures, breakthroughs, and bold decisions behind their rise. Because your life is a movie too, and you're the star of yours.
Chris, when people tell you that you look 38 at 61, do you experience that as validation or pressure?
A little, I guess. It's sort of like it's more so when my age comes up, people don't believe it. It comes up in some sort of situation. People are like, "Wow, you don't look that old," and I'm like, "Well."
Yeah.
And then of course people want to know what I do, and then they find out, and then of course we kind of take it from there. But it validation only, I guess, in the sense that outwardly it shows that I've been very disciplined with like skincare and fitness and all of those things. So, it's not just genetics. Obviously, you have to do some work with it. So it's in a way it validates that what I do works, and so it's helpful. Obviously, it's helpful to if someone who trying to help people out, which I do on the YouTube channel. It's helpful if I walk that talk. I do what I say what I suggest people do, and then they see that I've had results with it. So it really does kind of seal the deal, I think.
Yeah. So, how do you manage to look like that?
I'm very disciplined with my skincare. I have been for a very long time since I was in my mid-teens. You know, protecting myself from the sun, or too much of it. Some sun is good, but not too much. And then just I've really been focused on my diet a lot through my life, because the skin problems I had when I was a teenager, diet played a big role for me. So I think that combined with just really good discipline when it comes to skincare and taking care of things like if I start to gain weight, I'll look at my diet and adjust. If I started to have any sort of problem with the skin, like everybody has from time to time, I don't let it go. I work on those things. So it's really a constant part of my day to day.
Yeah. So, it's all about discipline. So, you don't know any secret shortcut or any easy
No,
way.
other than a facelift, maybe. You can do a peel or a facelift and get some pretty quick results. But no, generally speaking, the body's very resilient. If you start to do the things that it needs through diet, nutrition, and your fitness level, it can respond. Even sun damage to some degree can be reversed with a good skincare routine using the right type of ingredients. So it's never too late to get started for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But when there are so much nice things to eat
No,
and
no, truly, there are. And I don't deny myself things if I really want them. I'll be 62 in a few days, and there will be carrot cake, which is like my favorite, and
okay.
I will eat it.
Yeah. So there's a moment in your story where a casting agent tells you your skin might end your broadcasting career. When you look back now, do you see that moment as rejection or redirection?
It was very motivating for me. I mean, initially it did sound good or feel good, but
Yeah.
it didn't turn into like I didn't give up. It's not in my personality to do that. So I looked for answers instead. But it made me a little angry, and it was a little off-putting and a little worrisome. But here I am, built a career on camera now anyway. After all those years, that's kind of funny how it came full circle. Certainly not doing what I thought I would be doing back then, but nonetheless, camera is part of my day-to-day life, right? So I'm on screen all the time.
Yeah. So when something like that happens and we feel rejected in that moment, and then we promise ourselves that, okay, we'll prove that person wrong. So were you trying to prove anybody wrong, or what was the
No,
motivation
the
going on
motivation
for
was I was just over having the problem. Like I was frustrated, and uh, it wasn't really about proving anything wrong. It was that the traditional or conventional things we were doing weren't working. So there had to be something out there that worked. So I have a great deal of open mindedness. That's part of having grown up with entrepreneurial parents. So that's my upbringing. Might have something to do with the looking for answers in things and not giving up. Um, so I didn't give in. I didn't give up. So that was the drive. It wasn't to prove it. Well, later on when after I wrote that book about it, then I had to go head to head with some folks. But it was
Mm,
my story. It's what worked for me, and it worked for a lot of people making those changes. It wasn't popular about probiotics back then, and gut health weren't a big thing that people talked about till the antibiotic issues started to, MRSA and all of those super bugs started to happen because of overuse. So the timing was really good for that conversation, but I had my detractors in the medical community. And now many of the things that I talk about in the book are just common practice, um, for a lot of people anyway for their overall health. So you're cutting back on sugar, making sure that you're supplementing your diet with nutrients that you may be missing, knowing if you're missing them, protecting yourself from the sun, internal cleansing, fasting, scientifically been proven autophagy. What I actually did, and there were no words for it, but when I went on that fast in the book that I talk about, I started the autophagy process where my body was correcting some issues that I had. So I learned as I put things back in my diet what would set my skin off again. And I also recognized that I felt better. So it wasn't just skin, I felt better, more energy, that type of thing. So now we know, there's been studies and people talk about intermittent fasting, and which I still do, and extended fasting, which I still do a few times a year, is now a part of a lot of people's health plan. Um,
interesting.
so yeah, it's so we've kind of come full circle with a lot of that information.
So I have yet to learn how to not eat ice cream every single day.
I can eat ice cream every single day, and living in Florida, it's my absolute favorite thing. But
Yeah.
there's frozen yogurt. There's some options that get me there. But occasionally, I'm going to have regular ice cream. It's hot, and it's great to like be able to enjoy that treat on a hot day. I just don't do it every day, and I watch the sugar level. It's more the sugar that's the problem. So we have some options now that are that are good. Stevia, some natural sweeteners, and it's fun to make your own ice cream
Mm,
actually, and you in control of what goes in it. So
yeah. So let's go back to the question that I asked before. When your appearance becomes the obstacle to your dream, how does that change the way you see yourself?
well, for a lot of people, it's hard on self esteem. Obviously, a lot of people feel like there's something wrong with them. I went through a brief period of that. I talked about it in the book. Smacking myself in the face. I was so frustrated with my skin. But for me, it turned into to not desperation, but it turned into looking for a way to solve that problem. But no, truly, anytime somebody, because especially in your formative years, your teens and your 20s, you're very aware of how you look. And you use a lot of extra focus in that area. Lots of competition that shouldn't actually be there, but people do that. So depending on what, your vocation is, like I wanted to be in the arts and I wanted to be in broadcasting. And so it was, it was it was frustrating for me. But again, it turned into finding some answers. But for a lot of people, those type of things are very, very hard on their psychological health when it comes to self-esteem and feeling good about themselves. So
Yeah. Appearance plays a big part in how we see ourselves, like our self image. And it often happens that, for example, I had pimples problem when I was in my teenage. And then I was very aware of that. I was very conscious about it. But then I did not follow the kind of discipline that you do. It was again like a kind of very carefree lifestyle where you eat whatever you want to. Not everybody is ready to do what it takes.
right. And then some people, things like that are part of just growing up. For
Yeah.
me, it wasn't though, because I was in my 20s and I was still dealing with it. So there was that was the feeling at war with yourself. Why am I still dealing with this? Because the end promise was going through all of the medications and the treatments in my teens and in my early 20s was that it would go away on its own eventually anyway. You'd outgrow it. Well, not everybody outgrows it. And now we have the problem where people who've never had the issues get them later in life. And they're like, why am I having this now? So that tells you that something can trigger it at any time.
Yeah. Chris, you have said that your mother's passing changed your direction. Uh, could you please tell us more
Sure.
about that?
Yeah, sure. The book came out in 2004 and it was a huge thing. I was on television for like 5 straight years. Um, but I am the age I am, so that puts me in my 40s, and my mom was got children later in life, so she was already, and she had her own health problems. So when she passed, it was right after the Great Recession, and it was, I had the big house and the cars, I had all that stuff, and I was just wanted to divest of all of that. So it was like, on the one hand, having been a caregiver was very stressful. And now it took about a year and a half for me to get through the guilt of wanting to do that because they tell you to wait a while before you make any decisions when those things happen. But I wanted to just a fresh start. So I got rid of all of that and I moved to a very small place on the beach here in Florida, which was cheap at the time. Because again, right after the recession, you could live on the beach for a
Yeah.
song. And so I did that. And it was a rebuilding process just for me because I had to recreate my life. The last 10 years of that, I had the book going on. I was caregiver for my mother. I had a place to take care of. I had a lot. And so I was ready for a rest after all that. And then, it made me, when I got ready to start doing what I do, again, I thought hard about it. Do I want to do an update to the book? Do I really want to go that route and be back in that media frenzy stuff? And I was like, I really don't want to do that again. It was a blessing. I'm not unhappy that happened. It was great. A lot of people don't get to do what I got to do, but did I want to do it again? No. And now, I'm 50. When I moved down here, I turned 50. So my mom passed when I was 47. So I was really ready. And I looked at the changes in the way you could be in front of people and communicate and have a business. And so it recreated it once again, completely different approach with YouTube and social media. And the cool thing that happened was while I started off with the same stuff I've always talked about, as I got older, that's when people started to notice I didn't look older. So you know, I had to attribute that to the same thing. That the things that were hindering me when I was younger would hinder anyone at any point in life. So then studies started to come out, and I just I really gained a following through controversy over, was I telling the truth over my age or not? There's a whole Reddit on that, actually. Um, so people have pretty much accepted that I'm the age I am now for the most part on YouTube. It's still people come on there, I can't believe you're 61, and I used to make jokes. I would say, you know, people are going to really start to talk when I'm 50 if I don't look much different. Because even when I was on TV in my 40s, you know, they would have you wait for your turn to go on, and you'd be in a room with celebrities and other people, and they would come in and go, you know, who's Chris Gibson? And I would raise my hand and go, oh, we were expecting somebody older because they're thinking 40s, right? And so even then, I looked a lot younger. So it was not something I was shooting for. It was not something I was working towards. I was just working towards health. And the outcome has been that now I'm sort of like a walking billboard for that. You know, this is what happens if you really take care of yourself. And it's never too late to start. You should start as early as you can, but it's never too late to make those changes. So yeah, that's I know that's a lot, but that's really what the driving force was I wanted to find a way to be able to do what I do with more freedom, less pressure, and more control. Very limited what you can say on, well, it used to be, don't know anymore, but you were limited what you could talk about on television. You had 4 to 5 minutes. The way I worked myself around that, I was smart enough to think of, well, instead of just doing interviews, I'll come on and demonstrate things, how to make these things, what products that I
Yeah.
use. And so when it turned into being demonstrations, which is what I do with YouTube, uh, that really took off. That's what really drove everything, because it wasn't just a book interview. I had a few of those where I sat with somebody else and they asked me questions, kind of like we're doing today. But on television, it was demonstrations. I'd have a suitcase full of stuff every time I went somewhere, and I would talk, you know, I would talk about all that, and I would sometimes celebrities would join me in this segment. It was really cool. It was a really cool thing. So when it made sense to me, it just made sense to me YouTube would be the thing, right? Because I could do the same thing
Yeah.
for as long as I wanted, not 4 or 5 minutes, and I could talk more at length, and I would be able to communicate with the people who were viewing, which is really important to me. So that's what made my book very successful in the beginning. Was we set up where people could email questions, and we answered
Yeah.
questions. So people could buy a book and still talk to the author. You know, it was email, it was very
Interesting.
rudimentary. So that made me different in that space. And then, you know, YouTube was just a natural fit for me. And
Yeah.
those
YouTube has changed a lot of lives.
and as my mother said, those broadcasting lessons from college that were paid for finally paid off, like, because I was on TV. So there, you're on TV. You got your wish. There you are.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. And also, you had a stable corporate career before this path.
I did. Yeah. For
Did you
the
realize you are meant for something else and not for that
Yeah,
corporate career?
I always felt that. One of the things, again, growing up in an entrepreneurial household, the people that had really successful lives around me, freedom, the financial ability to do what they needed in their life, all owned businesses. So my godparents, or my parents' best friends, were entrepreneurial. They owned um, a tile and marble company. So when I was in my teens, I worked for them during the summer. So I had the groundwork was laid. It wasn't a thing I was thinking about, but the environment shaped. So when I was in the corporate world, while I did well, training and operations thing for the telephone company, it's no big secret out there. But when I did all those things, I always felt restricted.
Hmm.
Even though I would be considered. I started on the phones as an operator, and I was an executive vice president when I left that world. Um, so truly, again, successful, but I had that drive, that entrepreneur. You know, I solved problems. Again, the corporations love that.
Yeah.
But I always felt trapped, either by a paycheck or uncertainty about layoffs, or that just was very restrictive to me. So I was very excited to be able to actually get out there and do something and make something happen.
Yeah.
Good or
And
bad, success or not.
when you're meant for entrepreneurship, then you can't work for anybody.
Yeah, you can't go back. That was
Yeah.
the other when I came to Florida, there was that option. I could have gone and just found a job,
Right.
but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go back in there. So I did consulting work for people who were producing books. That's how I made my money for that 2 or 3 years. And then when I got back into what I'm doing, which my knowledge base is, what I'm trained to do and certified to do with YouTube as a vehicle, it was a much better setup because I didn't want to open a practice either. I just didn't want to
Mhm.
do any of that stuff. So this has been a really good fit for me, and it's helpful for people. And um, all of that training, I was able to take complex um, complex ingredients and treatments and kind of give them a more real world. This is what people say to me. It's not, again, not something I sat down and tried to figure out how to do, but I'm able to take those concepts apparently and communicate them in a way that folks can really understand them without being
Right.
giving them a headache, without being too scientific. I make fun. I know a lot of videos. I make fun of the scientific names of stuff because you would never know that's what something is called. It's like no relation to anything. So yeah, so that really has been the drive. Freedom has been the driving force in me, and freedom for me
Yeah.
means freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom to do what I want to do when I want to do it. For the most part, businesses do dictate things as they get bigger. You lose a little bit of that because things have to get done, but in general, it's still me at the end of the day, good, bad, or indifferent. So
Yeah.
it's 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 very inspiring to a lot of people. I have a lot of young people around me that are very inspired about that,
Yeah.
want that same type of thing. They want that freedom, especially these days where people don't feel like they're enumerated properly or treated properly or given fair advancement opportunities. I get a lot of questions about how I do what I do and how I set it up, and I tell the truth, the pitfalls, the struggles, and the outcomes that are positive when they happen. So
Yeah, but the freedom comes after a lot of struggle. Like entrepreneurship is not an easy journey.
no,
When
I
we
made
start,
yeah.
it's very harsh roads. And then when you get to the point what you aimed for, then you get that freedom finally. It's a long journey.
It is. I tell everybody it's that work free for a while. WFFA. That's what we call it. And truly I had to keep doing book consulting when I started this because YouTube wasn't paying me anything. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't have brands that I work with brands now, a lot of them. I didn't have any of that. I would put a video out and get 10 or 15 views. You know what I mean? Fortunately, I had the people who bought the book. So once that helped, once the wind got out that I was back doing that, then I think we picked up our first probably 10,000 followers that way. But after that, it was a churn again for several years before I hit
Yeah.
100,000. So, because
Yeah.
I started as the YouTube channel is 10 years old, it was had TV clips from all the TV appearances. That's all it was. So in May of 18 is when I put out my first video on sunscreen.
Yeah.
The toxic ingredients in sunscreen was the topic. And so here we are, 26, right? 8 years later. So really, I would say the last 3.5 years, a sustainable business. And then of course I have my own skincare line and a supplement line, and all those things have come about because of that. But yeah, so five years of literally
I
doing
relate
double
with
work.
your I relate with your story. When I left my corporate job in 2015, for 5 years I was making zero money, like not less but zero. And then I knew that how it uh, happens. Like it's a struggle every single day. Get up and just keep doing what you want to do without seeing that destination in sight. And then because you want it to be free, but then the freedom does not look like freedom at that time. It's lots of struggle initially. So then you get to the point where things finally start working, and then you get to the point where okay, now I'm happy with what decision I made back
Yeah, and when people visit, and I get this question here in the house, and then go, "What do I get out of it?" It's probably something you were going to ask me anyway, so I hope I'm not jumping ahead too far. But there's a room here that has they're awards, but they're not awards. They're like the best local influencer, best, it's that type of stuff. And I say that's more indicative of what I get because it helps people. So it's the people part of it that is why
then.
I'm in it, not to be a giant YouTuber, not to be a social media influencer. That was never the goal. The goal was to get the information out. And I said, so the fact that I have now a wall full of these things, um, is more indicative of, it's because I don't really care about the awards, but it's indicative of feedback from the community, from my community online and from the community locally, here in Florida, of the fact that I contribute something. I'm contributing to the whole, which is really, really where it's at. That's really what makes you feel good about doing this stuff. So not the plaques on the wall, not how many followers you have, not all that stuff's great. Kind of vanity, as they call it. That's all great. And it's credibility, which is helpful. But it really is being able to contribute in a way that I couldn't do in a corporate, you know.
Yeah.
I had, you have to follow the company line, whether you agree with it or not, or leave, which was what I did. I left. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So, so yeah.
I believe that success happens as the side effect of what we are doing for people, and what kind of value we are adding to the world. So, if you aim at success with that focus, then it's very hard. But if you just keep on going, doing what you love to do, helping people who you choose to help, then success happens as a side effect of this entire process.
Yeah. I mean, the universe really does a good job of that. Like I did in the beginning, trying to grow the YouTube channel. I was working really hard and I was very hungry for that 100,000 follower plaque because I felt like that would change a lot of things for me. So I was really about that. And I ended up having to move. So for the first time, this is 2 years, it's almost 3 years in, I didn't do any videos for a week and a half, and the channel blew up while I was not even doing anything. My focus was somewhere else. And I'm like, that is crazy. I'm like, how has that happened? Like I just took my foot off the gas and so I've got to move. So I've got to focus on this. But the first time ever, I'm not going to focus on YouTube at all. I'm going to get this done because it was a big move. And yeah, I was like, okay. So that sort of changed things for me. It's like, okay, I just need to do what I'm doing and it'll get there. And sure enough, the very next year, we had two things that we had at the house. We watched it go to 100,000 on YouTube. That was a bit of a celebration. But I was at an outdoor event last year, because and now I'm more known in the community. There was a whole thing they were watching. It was a pool event, like an outdoor thing. Florida's full of those. Almost every function out there is outside in the heat. So it was a big pool party thing going on, an event I was at, and they were watching because it was going to go to 500,000. So I wasn't making a big deal about it, but they were all making a big deal about it. It's like, oh my God, this is so crazy. So there's a lot of cheering and applauding for me. The local people were like very excited that that happened. So there are things like that that are fun, and that's that creator community, creator world. Those pieces are fun, but they very fleeting. I mean, 10 minutes later, it's 510,000. What's next? It's like, yay, but
Yeah.
then it's fleeting. It's sort of like people like, I got the new car. And then a month later they go, oh, yeah, I got a new car a month ago. But when it's a new house. My first new house was that way. I couldn't believe I was 24 years old and buying a house. But it's, again, the drives that I had. So the first house was, I remember waiting and waiting and waiting for it to be done, and marking the calendar felt like moving through jello, and then after I'm like, okay, now what? it wore off really fast, right? I mean, this is great. I was very proud to have the house. That lasted about 3 months, and then I'm like, now I got to mow the grass. Now I got to clean it. It's like, next, what's next? So it's the same thing. It's never ending. When I tell a million,
It's
it'll
never.
be what's next. It's like that will be a
Yeah.
big celebration for sure. But it's just like I've touched a
It becomes
million
a
lives.
chasing game.
Yeah. It's just the fun part of it. But the work is the work that you have to do every day, whether you
Yeah.
feel like it or not. I have to get
Yeah. Show
I
up
I
with
have to hand
discipline
this
and
stuff.
focus.
Yeah, it's always there. It's always there. So but I created it and it's mine. So there we have it.
Yeah. So, as we're talking about aging, because you are in that industry, it feels like we have been taught to treat aging as something to fight instead of something uh, to understand, or we can age gracefully. Of course, we have to be fit, but then a lot of attention has been given to the appearance part.
Yep. Too much.
Yeah.
Too much attention and I'd rather call it pro aging, but because we deal with algorithms and keywords and ways to get information in front of people, you still pretty much have to put that in there somewhere, anti-aging, where your stuff doesn't get in front of the right people. It's very, very frustrating sometimes, because I'll do a video that's really more about the food or the exercise I do now. It's getting better as I'm getting more known for those pieces and because of how I look. Um, but it's never as big as the appearance piece. The appearance piece is always the driver. So I continually have to talk about, how do I reverse this? How do I deal with brown spots? How do you with crepey skin? How do you deal on and they're all valid things. Um, but I have to stick in there videos and I have to stick in content in these videos on these subjects that there are, you need to be hydrated. You need to look at the environment in your home. Skin is very resilient, and you can do, there's certain ways to trap moisture. So I get into, but I have to start with, I have to open with taking your skin from this to this. I mean,
Hmm.
I've learned that if I say that in the beginning, it's very clear. Here's a problem. Here's what you look like without the problem. You get people to move over and pay attention, and then you can get the good information that in there in the video if you can get them to watch long enough. So there's a whole thing that happens with all of that.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of collagen supplementation in your diet. But we have to start with why skin structure fails as you get older
Yeah.
and what you can do to supplement it. And so that's why I started the whole supplement line, because I said people need to have access to what I do. So there's nothing in my line I don't use in either one of them. So, it's I try to keep it really authentic and really real. But it's like people focus in one area. If it's weight, I've noticed this for a lot of people, weight issues over, they don't even think about their skin. They'll be with
Hmm.
so much attention on diet and trying to lose weight, which is really hard on your skin, that up and down stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of learning how to fast, healthy fasting, setting a smaller window of eating during the day, it limits you physically from how much knowing if your hormones are balanced, making sure all of those things. It's the weight loss that's in the way. The idea of I want to go from this to this really quickly. Same thing with
Yeah.
skin. I want to go from this to this really quickly. So in order to trigger the reptilian brain's fight or flight response, I have to put stuff out like that at the beginning. So it's not so much clickbait titles. My titles are very straightforward, but the visuals have to go, here's a problem, here's what it looks like without the problem.
Before and
And
after.
it's not a hook, but it turns that part of the brain on, and people don't tune you out. So it took me a long time to learn how to do that, because on television I was guaranteed an audience. On
Hmm.
YouTube, you're not guaranteed anything. So, you have to figure out how to talk your talk or the language visually to get people to pay attention, not through any fault of their own. That's just how it is. And like, we've got TikTok now, and things are so fast. And, tell me how to fix this problem in 3 seconds or less. Is Can't believe that's doesn't even work. So yeah,
So yeah,
it's
there are two ways to get into this. Like one is the disciplined way, which is authentic way, which is healthy way. And the other one is like there are shortcuts available that has created the entire billion-dollar industry, which is skincare, hair, Botox, mm,
yeah, it's a ton of stuff. And then yeah, it's just
surgery.
overload. There's an
Yeah,
overload
yeah,
of the stuff. And so I think people like that you're there. Like you don't show up and disappear. Like celebrities will release a skincare line, then you pretty much don't hear from them anymore. So when you're someone who is visually present and they have the ability, people have the ability to check in with you or email you, it gives that authenticity that goes beyond just the piece of information that a person had. So it can be a little overwhelming because now there are a lot of folks and I can't get to
yeah,
everybody. So I'm gonna have to start doing lives, which I've been reluctant to do. Not because I don't want to. I did live TV forever, so that's not the right. It's just that once I start something, I like to make sure I'm going to be doing it ongoing. So
yeah,
it's fitting it in the schedule and making sure that I'm going to be able to do that every month. I don't want to give something and then take it away. So we're working on that, but that's going to have to happen because I'm just getting too big to do it the old way, just the old way. So
yeah.
a lot going on with all that. It's like,
A lot is going on, right? So as we see this industry, as I was talking about this whole, which is Botox and all these shortcuts that have come up in the market. So, what do you think? The industry is solving the problem or benefiting from it?
I tell people if Botox, all of those things, fillers have their place. Um,
Yeah.
Going to a reputable practitioner to have that done is super important. Not just these house parties where people are injecting Botox. I just don't get that at all. But anyway, I don't do any of it. I'm not against doing it if I thought I needed it. And of course, I would talk about that on the channel. It wouldn't be a secret. There are other therapies that are non-invasive. The problem with Botox is it freezes the muscle, and if you start early in your life with that, which we've seen with celebrities that started that in the 80s and 90s, that muscle, just like any muscle that doesn't get used, atrophies, it shrinks, it's weaker. So then you have sagging problems that you
Hmm.
wouldn't have had the muscles. So I talk a lot about facial massage and facial toning, especially if you have Botox and filler, you can't do that because you'll mess up the effect. So I tell people wait as long as possible. But if something needs a surgical procedure, and you're really that unhappy, and there are people that get these things done that you would never know they have them done. It's not overdone. It's just to supplement what they're doing. Um, Sort of like the weight loss drugs, same thing. People came out the gate taking those things constantly, and there were a lot of problems. And now people have learned to fit that into an overall strategy where they take the shot maybe once or twice a month. Just again, you could do the same thing with fasting, but
Yeah.
that's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people feel like they can't. It's more of a psychological than a body issue when it comes to fasting. So, then there's the problem of once you start work, you want more work, and they're happy to sell it to you. So it's a minefield, but I tell you, if you do a lot of research and talk to a lot of people, you need to see folks that have had the things done you want to have done. A reputable person will show you that. And now we have technology where you can go in and they can show you what you'll basically look like with those treatments. They can
Yeah.
take your picture and augment it, and it's pretty close. But then you've got everybody's body chemistry is different. You might not react well to the filler. You might not react
Right.
well to Botox. So there's a whole lot. There's probably 15 podcasts we could do on that whole piece, but I'm not against it. If it helps you feel better about yourself and you look good to you, that's all that really matters. Um, but there are so many and there's always a but, right? But there are so many treatments that are non-invasive, like red light therapy and near infrared therapy, laser therapy that is non-invasive that helps generate more collagen under the skin. That over time, while it's more time consuming, it's not instant. Um, can give you some really similar benefits without the bad side effects or the need to continue. Like you have to spend money on that stuff over time, whereas a device, once you own one, unless you just want to upgrade it, you've already paid for the device, so it pays for itself over time. So I do a lot of reviews on devices, especially the red light therapy devices because they do work. They're helpful. They're even starting to implement red light therapy in helping to heal retinas because of the way it works with the mitochondria and turns it on in the cells and can get cells to regenerate. So there's a lot going on with that technology
Yeah, there's a lot going
that's
on.
really exciting. And so I'm like, I'm gonna probably never do Botox. I'm 60, gonna be 62 in 7 days. And yeah, next Thursday, 7 days. And I have a few wrinkles, but I think I would look completely weird if I had no wear and tear. Like that would be weird. So I'm not looking for that, you know. I'm just
Yeah.
looking to look healthy and energetic. You know, I want that to match my personality and my energy levels quite high. So you know, Tina Turner used to talk about that. Like people go, God, you just like a ball on fire, and when she was in her 60s, so for her health issues with her kidneys, um, she was still performing and moving
Hmm.
and full of energy, and so yeah, and didn't have any work done. It looked amazing. So it really is just depends on the path you want to take. There are many paths available, but to your point earlier, I wish it were more about pro aging, the viewpoint. Well, how can I feel as good and look as good as I possibly can for me as I get older? Because there are a lot of people I'm not unique. There are a lot of folks that don't look their age or don't look
Yeah.
the age. They don't look run down and they don't look like they've abused their skin. You can't take abuse that you do away. Too much sun's going to show up. Too many drugs, too many late nights, too much alcohol, too much of anything is going to show up. But you can make changes and they will show up in your health and your how you look.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Get ready for the ultimate challenge, this or that. Choose fast, trust your instincts, and let's go.
Chris, now let's play a little game. It's a fun game. I love to play that with every guest on my show. It's called This or That. I would give you two options. You just need to pick one instinctively. You don't need to describe anything, just pick one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Botox or broccoli?
Botox or broccoli? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, broccoli.
Looking young or living well?
Living well.
Expensive serum or boring discipline?
Oh, that's a hard one, actually. Discipline.
Genetics or excuses?
Excuses.
Anti-aging industry or anti-aging lifestyle?
Anti-aging lifestyle. That's what you said, right? Yeah, lifestyle.
Perfect skin or peaceful mind?
Peaceful mind.
Mirror confidence or camera confidence?
Oh, I think just confidence. Yeah, the first one. The first one. Just confidence.
Chasing youth or building vitality?
Building vitality.
Quick fixes or long-term habits?
Long-term habits.
Well played.
Right.
For being spontaneous. Chris, we believe that every life is a movie and you are the star of yours. And of course, your life is a movie. You are the star of your movie. What is the title of that movie?
Oh, so many in my head, right? um, everything always works out. It
Love
all
that.
works out. It works out. There's not one thing I look back on is looking at that as a movie that at the time I didn't know how something would work out. It still worked out. And as you get older, that's the really gift that life gives you. after 50 is like, all that crap I worried about back there, like it all worked out. It was the how's it going to work out that was the getcha, but it all works out. Everything works out. There's
Yeah.
a solution for everything. Everything is Marie Forleo. I love that. Everything is figure outable. It is. And once you
It
get
is.
that, that the worry doesn't help anything. It doesn't change the energy of anything. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't move anything. You go through the worry, and then your brain, you finally exhaust yourself, and your brain goes, here's an idea I've been trying to give you for a month
Yeah.
or a year or a lifetime. And you go, oh, and then the solution just shows up. Well, it didn't, it was there. You just had running interference with yourself. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely it all works out. Everything always works out.
Yeah. I believe that we are always supported. Universe never leaves us alone.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of faith that we have.
And the more you trust it, that's when the times when you
Yeah,
need to ask for it, it shows up. You're like, wow.
it does.
And people go, how
Yeah.
does that happen to you? I'm like, because I trust that. It
Yeah.
took years. I didn't trust it surely in the early years. But just like YouTube, I trusted. I told her, I said, you know what? I'm going to do the best job I can do with these videos and build a catalog. I don't know when it'll ever be what it is now, because I didn't know. But I trusted that if I did the work and that's what I really wanted, it would happen, and it did. So
Yeah. If there's one message you would need to leave the world with, what would that be?
do stuff for yourself. Do it because of you, how you feel about it, which is on its swing sounds selfish. It's not, because if you can't really give somebody something you don't have anything to give.
Hmm.
And we see a whole lot of warped folks trying to do it that way, and it really is. You got to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah, that's important. For those who would like to follow the rest of your movie, how can they do that?
well, YouTube, it's easy because it's all just my name, Chris Gibson. So if you put Chris Gibson YouTube, you'll find me. Um, all of the other social media is, with the exception of TikTok, that's skincare with Chris. It's a more narrow thing. Everything is like Chris Gibson Friends. Facebook is that. The online community that I have is different. It's called Skin So Fabulous because it's just about skincare. But yeah, just all you have to do is Google me. It's all there, which is a fortunate thing. That was not the case for many years, but now it's easy to find me.
Thank you, Chris. It was an awesome conversation. I loved it.
Yeah, thank you.
This is The Corporate Life. More stories, more insight, more truth. Until the next episode, stay curious. Don't forget to subscribe.